I wanted to share a flip through of my new journal before I start using it. I just finished making this journal yesterday and I've been in between journals for a while, so I'm really keen and eager to do some journaling, some catch-up journaling in here. So before I can do that, I wanted to share a flip through, as I always do, of the blank journal. That way you can kind of compare the journal blank to when it's completed, as I always share a flip through of my completed journal as well. So this is the journal I'm going to be working in from now on. This journal is a hardcover journal and it measures approximately 7 inches wide by about just over 9 inches tall. And this is actually one of 7. So I've been making 7 journals just like this all at the same time. One is for me, one is for a friend, and then there'll be 5 that will become available when they're finished. So I've finished mine and I finished the journal for a friend of mine. And this is what that one looks like. So both of these journals are the same size and they have the same types of pages and they have the same amount of pages inside as well. I did make the spines on these a little bit smaller than what I usually do. So the spines measure about 2 inches wide. I just wanted to create a journal for myself that was really usable, and I just thought I would try something slightly smaller, slightly skinnier, so it's not going to be quite as bulky. So I made these just the way that I normally do, but there is one big difference, and that is the painting on the cover of these. So I actually did some hand painting on the cover of these journals. So that's the flowers that you see on the cover of these, and that's the same for the other 5 in the collection that will be available as well. So that'll be in another video later on once I get them finished, but this kind of gives you a good insight and a bit of a preview as to what to expect for those journals. There is a bit of thunder in the background of this video, sorry if it's quite loud. So the color scheme as well is lots of pinky tones, so that goes for the rest of the journals as well. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I need to keep on track and just talk about this journal, and I also wanted to share this one in this video as well because I hope to give this to my friend in the next few days. It's a little surprise for her. So the back of these journals all have some gold embossing on them as well, and so I did that with this beautiful little floral stamp, and these are just all individually stamped and all individually embossed. So as you can imagine, that takes a lot of time, but I think it looks really, really pretty to create a little pattern with the stamps that way. So I did that on the back, and I picked this journal for myself. I actually picked this journal for myself out of the 7 because it had the most imperfections. So in actually building the cover of the journal, it had some little like air bubbles in the fabric. So I was just obviously not as careful with this book. So I just kept this one for myself because of those little imperfections, so that I could make sure all of the rest of them were more perfect. So this was mine, and I decided to go with this really deep kind of orangey pink. It's almost red. So this cover, you could call it red, but it's also kind of pink and it's also kind of orange. It's a very, very warm toned pinky red. I don't know how else to describe it. And I also just put some extra raised areas on these covers, so like an extra sort of frame around the window here. So just an extra dimension to the cover. And then you can see my hand painting. And I wanted to do this because this year, and I'll be talking about this a little bit more in future videos, but this year I really wanted to prioritize art making, and I think that the best way for me to do that is to actually incorporate art making and painting and drawing into my actual journaling process, and also into the process of making my journals. So this was a real challenge for me to actually paint on the cover of these. I'm still learning so much, and I'm not a pro by any means. I'm quite an amateur with painting, so it was a bit of a challenge, and I tried to do kind of a symmetrical design on each book. And so I like to do these symmetrical sort of floral designs. When I create my paper packs, you probably see me do quite a lot of those. And I usually use Procreate, and I usually use the symmetry tool. So it automatically repeats or mirrors what you design on one side. Whereas this was obviously all manual, so I had to try and mirror it as best as I could. And I kept it pretty simple, but I think it turned out really pretty. So that's the front, and then on the spine I also put some more of the same sort of florals and the same colours. Now for the dangles, I actually didn't have a whole lot of beads that I was loving, so I always like to make sure with the dangles that I have a nice variety of beads and different textures, so glass and plastic and some brass charms and some wooden beads and some ceramic beads. A nice mixture gives you a really nice finished look, and I didn't really have a whole lot of variety in my beads. I think I'm missing maybe some nice big glass beads, so I worked with what I had anyway because I wanted to get this finished and I can always add more beads later. But I pulled out a couple of pretty beads, and then I also decided to incorporate some special charms. This big locket here is this was actually on another journal that I was sent from a dear friend of mine quite a number of years ago. So my friend Marge, she made a beautiful journal which I filled up. This was hanging off that journal, but it came unattached, and I've just been hoarding it since then. And so I decided to finally use it and to attach it to this journal. I also added this little unicorn charm, which reminds me of my daughter. And then this little ceramic heart my brother made. So my brother has an intellectual disability and he loves getting crafty, and he's made me quite a few special little ceramic pieces and things because he's very, very thoughtful like that. So I attached one of these little ceramic hearts to the cover. And then I also had a couple of little necklaces for Mother's Day. My kids doubled up and got me these necklaces with these charms that say "Love you, Mum." And so I took the charms off and I hung them on the spine as well. And then also a cute little, this was a butterfly off a bookmark from my kids for Mother's Day as well. So I took the butterfly off and attached it as a dangle. So I tried to incorporate some things that were special and meaningful to me because I didn't have a lot of beautiful beads, so I wanted it to be special in some kind of way. So when we open the journal up, you can see the journal is lined with this beautiful floral paper, and this floral paper is actually from some drawer liners that I found at Aldi a few months ago, and they're scented, so they smell nice, and they worked really, really well to line the cover. So they just glued down really nice and flat, and they just look pretty, and again they smell nice. So I use that for the liner in all of the journals in this collection as well. It's really, really pretty. It's a Liberty print. For the inside pages of this journal, I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I wanted to go a little bit more plain with the pages. So I am doing tea-dyed pages, and so most of the pages in this journal are tea-dyed, and then there's also a few other things. So there's some vintage ledger paper, and there's more vintage ledger paper, and then I've also included just some small sections of pretty scrapbook paper, which I've attached to the pages in a way where it's not the whole background, it's just a section of the page. So I've actually folded this single-sided paper over, and then I've sewn it onto the edge of a tea-dyed paper. And then that's pretty much it in this journal. So it's extremely plain compared to what I normally like to do. And the reason that I did that for myself is because, as I mentioned, I really would like to prioritize making more art this year. So more drawing and more painting. And I think that I always have that intention, but because I'm always journaling and I'm always making journaling content and making journals, that sort of falls down the priority list, and then I never end up actually spending enough time on it. So I figured that the best way for me to actually practice more art is to incorporate it into my journaling. And so by having more plain pages, I hope that I'll be able to, I hope that that will encourage me to do more painting in my actual journal and more drawing and be a little bit more creative and a little bit more free. So that's my thinking. That's what I've done. And this is just going to be a really quick flip through because the pages are so plain. But I'm really excited to fill them up. There are a couple of pages that fold out. And yeah, so the pages are tea dyed, not coffee dyed. So it doesn't have a strong smell or anything. And I try not to go too overboard with how much I included inside as well. So it can definitely bulk up a little bit. So that's my journal. And then I'll just quickly show you the inside of this one while we're here. So this one has the same types of pages as mine. So both of these are very, very similar. I'm still working on the inside pages of the rest of the collection that will be for sale. So So I would love to hear your input. Would you like to see the same sort of thing in the rest of the collection? So would you like more plain pages in those, or would you prefer me to include my regular mix of papers and include more patterns and stuff like that? Obviously it's going to be different for every person what their preference would be, but I'd love to hear what you would like to see in those because I'm still working on the inside pages right now. And yeah, I know not everybody likes tea-dyed pages as well, and I usually do try to steer away from those when I'm selling my journals, but sometimes it's nice to do something different and to mix it up, so it is a really nice touch. So this is the journal that I've made for my friend, and hopefully I'll be able to give this to her within the next few days. And yeah, again, if you do like this style of journal and you like the color scheme and you like the hand painting, there are 5 more that I'm working on that I'll be able to share soon, and they will be available for sale, so keep your eyes out for that. In the meantime, I should hopefully have some more journal with me videos coming out because I've got some catch-up journaling to do in here. I hope you enjoyed this little flip through, and I'll see you again really soon for a journal with me.